Disclaimer: this video is for storytelling and entertainment purposes only. All events are either dramatized, fictionalized, or told with the permission of those involved. Viewer discretion is advised. It all started on an ordinary Friday night. I was halfway through a pizza, just scrolling through my phone, not expecting anything serious to happen. My plan was simple: relax, maybe play some games, and call it a night early. But out of nowhere, my phone started ringing. I glanced at the screen. It was Jess, my best friend since high school. We talk a lot, but something about the timing felt off. I answered with a casual, "Hey, what's up?" expecting her usual energetic voice. But what I heard next made my heart drop. She whispered, her voice shaky like she was holding back tears. "Help me. I'm scared." I sat up straight immediately, my heart pounding. "Jess? What's going on?" She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing hard, like she was trying to stay quiet. Then she said something that made every hair on my arm stand up. "Someone broke into my mom's house." At first, I thought I misheard her. "What do you mean someone broke in?" I asked, my mind racing. I could barely process what she was saying. Jess wasn't the type to panic easily. If she was scared, it had to be serious. "I don't know who it is," she said, her voice cracking. "I just came over to check on my mom because she wasn't answering her phone." I walked in, and the door was already open. It looked like someone had forced it open, and I think someone's still inside. I threw on my shoes so fast I almost fell over. "Jess, are you inside right now?" She didn't respond for a second, then whispered, "I'm hiding in the laundry room." I didn't want to leave without knowing if my mom's okay. My heart was beating like crazy. I told her to stay on the phone with me and stay hidden. I asked if she had called the police yet. She said she hadn't, not yet. She was too scared to make noise, afraid the person might hear her. I told her I was on my way. Now here's the thing: Jess's mom's house isn't far. Maybe a 10-minute drive, tops. But those 10 minutes felt like an hour. My thoughts were everywhere. Was her mom home? Was she hurt? Was someone really still inside the house? I've never felt that kind of panic before, like I was racing against something I couldn't even see. I kept her on speaker as I drove, trying to calm her down. She whispered updates. I heard a door creak. "I think they're moving upstairs now." Each thing she said made me feel more helpless. I wanted to be there already, to just make sure she was okay, to get her out of there. Then she said something that really shook me. "I think I heard my mom's voice, but it didn't sound right." "What do you mean?" I asked, trying not to sound as freaked out as I was. "I don't know. It was like her, but different. Like she was talking to someone, but her voice sounded shaky." Scared. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I called the police right after that. I told them everything: address, the situation, the fact that someone could still be in the house. They said officers were on their way. I just kept hoping they'd get there before anything worse happened. By the time I pulled up outside the house, the place looked completely normal. Lights off. No signs of a struggle from the outside. It was almost eerie how calm it looked, considering what Jess was telling me. I stayed in my car and told her I was there. She said she didn't want to come out yet. "I think they're downstairs now," she whispered. I told her the police were almost there. We just had to hang in a little longer. But then, out of nowhere, her voice shot up, not loud, but urgent. "Wait. I hear footsteps. They're coming closer." I could hear it too, faintly through the phone. Footsteps. Floorboards creaking. I held my breath. I felt frozen, just sitting there in my car, staring at that house, knowing my best friend was trapped inside with someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Then, suddenly, silence. "Jess?" I said. No answer. "Jess. Say something." Still nothing. I don't think I've ever felt that level of fear in my life. I was just about to run toward the house when I saw something in the upstairs window. A shadow moved across the glass. Just for a second. It was fast, but I swear I saw someone. And then, finally, sirens. The flashing lights of the patrol cars lit up the entire street, and officers rushed toward the house. I jumped out of my car and tried to tell them everything as fast as I could. But all I could think about was whether Jess was okay. Whether her mom was okay. And who the hell was in that house with them. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they opened the front door. What they found inside. I never expected it. None of us did. But I'll tell you what happened, in the next part. The police entered the house quickly, flashlights cutting through the dark. I stood outside, heart racing, eyes locked on the front door, waiting for someone to come out and tell me what was going on. Everything felt frozen in that moment, like time had stopped. Neighbors had started coming out of their homes, watching from a distance, whispering, wondering what was happening. But all I could think about was Jess. Was she okay? Where was her mom? Who had been inside that house? Minutes passed. It felt like forever. Finally, one of the officers came back out and walked toward me. He asked who I was, and I told him everything, how Jess had called me, how she was hiding inside, how I stayed on the phone with her the whole time until it suddenly went quiet. He nodded and said they were still clearing the house. Still looking for her. That part scared me even more. She hadn't come out yet. She hadn't even answered me since those last few words. I tried calling her again, but the call went straight to voicemail. No ringing. Just silence. I kept pacing, trying to keep it together, but I was losing it inside. I kept thinking back to what she said, about hearing her mom's voice, but it not sounding right. That detail kept replaying in my head. Something about it just didn't sit right. It was like there was something else going on, something deeper than just a break-in. Eventually, another officer came out and told me they had found Jess. She was okay, shaken up, but physically fine. They were taking her out through the back of the house for safety, just in case the person who broke in was still nearby. I wanted to see her, talk to her, make sure with my own eyes that she was all right, but they told me to wait. I understood. Sort of. But it was hard. You don't just stand still when someone you care about is involved in something like this. As I waited, I started thinking more about her mom. Jess and her mom didn't always have the easiest relationship, but they were close in their own way. Her mom, Denise, was a strong woman. Lived alone ever since Jess's dad left when she was a kid. She worked hard, sometimes too hard. She was the type of person who didn't like asking for help. And that made it even scarier, because if something had happened to her, I knew Jess would never forgive herself. Or me. A few more police cars arrived, along with an ambulance. They brought Jess to one of them, just to check her out, I guess. I saw her for a moment as they walked her across the lawn. She looked pale, eyes wide, like she hadn't fully processed what had happened. When she spotted me, she gave a small wave, like she was trying to show me she was okay. But I could tell she wasn't. Later, when they finally let me talk to her, she pulled me aside and told me something I still don't fully understand. She said, there was someone in the hallway, but it wasn't a stranger. I think it was my uncle. Her uncle. That didn't make any sense. Jess's uncle, her mom's brother, had been out of the picture for years. Last we heard, he was living in another state, not really in contact with the family. I asked her if she was sure, and she said, I only saw him for a second. But it looked like him. Same walk, same face. Just older. I didn't know what to say. It made everything 10 times more confusing. Was it really him? What was he doing there? And why would he break into his sister's house? Then she told me something even stranger. When she was hiding in the laundry room, before everything went silent, she heard her mom say something that made her freeze. She said, "Please, you don't have to do this again." Again. That one word changed everything. It meant something had happened before. Something we didn't know about. Jess looked at me and said, "What if this wasn't random? What if this was part of something else?" The police didn't find anyone inside the house. Whoever had been there was already gone by the time they got in. But the door had definitely been forced open, and a few drawers had been rifled through. The place wasn't trashed, but it was clear someone had been looking for something. Denise, Jess's mom, still wasn't answering her phone. And she wasn't in the house. That's when the panic hit again. Where was she? Why hadn't she called Jess back? Her car was still in the driveway. Her purse was in the living room. But she wasn't anywhere in the house. It was like she had vanished. The police started asking questions. When Jess last saw her mom, if there was any reason someone might have wanted to hurt her, if Denise had mentioned anything strange lately. Jess didn't know what to say. She was just as confused as everyone else. She kept saying her mom had been acting a little distant the past few weeks, like something was bothering her, but nothing this serious. That night, we stayed with Jess's aunt across town. The police were still investigating, and Jess didn't want to be alone. Neither did I. We couldn't stop thinking about what happened. The break-in, the whispering voice, the shadow in the window, the familiar figure in the hallway. And most of all, what her mom meant when she said, "again." We knew something wasn't right. We just didn't know how deep it really went. But the next morning, we found something on Jess's phone. A voicemail from an unknown number. It had been left at exactly 7:14 p.m., right around the time Jess said she heard her mom talking. The message was only 6 seconds long. And it changed everything. But I'll tell you about that, in the next part. Jess played the voicemail on speaker, and we both leaned in close, barely breathing. The voice was muffled, like the person was whispering or maybe speaking through something. But it was clear enough to make out the words. "She knows. Don't let her leave." That was it. 6 seconds. No name, no background noise, just those words. Jess's hand was shaking when she hit pause. "She knows what?" she whispered, like saying it louder might somehow make it worse. I had no answer. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it. Did it mean her mom? Or her? And who was the message meant for? We took the voicemail straight to the police that morning. They took the phone as evidence, said they'd trace the number, see if it led to anything. But even they looked confused, like they didn't quite know what to make of it yet. Jess kept asking if they had found any sign of her mom, credit card activity, traffic cams, anything. But there was still nothing. She was just gone. Later that day, we went back to her mom's house to pick up a few things. The place still felt wrong. The front door had been fixed, but it didn't make it feel any safer. The rooms were untouched since the night before, and the air felt thick, like the house itself was holding its breath. Jess wandered into her mom's room and started looking around. She said she was trying to see if anything important was missing, documents, clothes, anything. That's when she found the letter. It was tucked under a stack of old bills in her mom's nightstand. Folded twice, handwritten, no envelope. It was short, and only half of it made sense. I didn't know what else to do. I thought if I kept quiet, it would go away. But I was wrong. I think he's coming back. If anything happens, tell Jess the truth. She deserves to know everything. Even if it puts me in danger. No name. No date. Jess read it over and over like she was trying to find some hidden meaning. She looked at me and said, "What truth? What did she think I didn't know?" That became the question that followed us everywhere. The police now believe Denise may have left voluntarily, but not necessarily by choice. They started calling it a suspicious disappearance. Jess called it something else. A cover-up. She was convinced now that this wasn't just about a break-in. She believed her mom had been hiding something for a long time, something that was now catching up with her. I didn't know what to believe. But things got even stranger when we went through her mom's storage bin in the garage. There were old photo albums, notebooks, and random paperwork. But one folder stood out. It had a few yellowed news clippings inside, about a missing girl from 15 years ago. Her name was Rachel Mendez. Never found. The case had gone cold. Jess stared at the articles for a long time before saying, "I've never heard this name before. Why would my mom keep these?" And then she turned over one of the papers, and found a note in her mom's handwriting. She wasn't just a name. I saw him take her. It didn't make sense. Nothing did. Why was her mom watching an old missing persons case? What did it have to do with anything happening now? And who was the him she kept writing about? That night, Jess barely slept. She kept her phone next to her, screen on, volume maxed. She was afraid she'd miss another message. I stayed over, just in case. Around 3 a.m., she sat up suddenly and said, "What if my uncle wasn't the only one in the house that night?" That thought hadn't crossed my mind before, but now that she said it, I couldn't shake it. The voice in the voicemail, it didn't sound like someone old. It was younger, calmer, like someone used to giving orders. There was more to this story than just a break-in. More than just a missing mom. Jess's family had secrets, dangerous ones. And piece by piece, we were starting to uncover them. But we were also starting to wonder, what if someone didn't want us to? And we'd find out soon enough, because someone was already watching us. But I'll get to that, in the next part. The next morning, Jess woke me up with panic in her eyes. "Someone was outside the house last night," she whispered. "I saw them through the window. Just standing across the street, staring." I jumped out of bed and looked outside, but no one was there now. Still, she was shaking. She said she didn't wake me because she was scared they'd see her move. She watched them for at least 10 minutes. No phone, no walking, no talking, just standing. And then they disappeared. We called the police again, but by the time they came, there was nothing to go on. No cameras on the street. No footprints. Just one nervous report added to an already growing pile of mystery. Jess was more on edge than ever. Her mom was still missing, her uncle was still nowhere to be found, and now someone was watching her house in the middle of the night. It was getting harder to breathe under all this pressure. We needed answers. That afternoon, we got a call from one of the detectives. They traced the voicemail. The number was connected to a burner phone, purchased with cash, no ID. But the last ping on the phone came from a tower less than a mile from Jess's house. It meant whoever sent the message wasn't far. That same night, Jess decided she was done waiting. She wanted to talk to her aunt again, the only family member who still kept any contact with her mom. We drove over around 8 p.m. Her aunt looked nervous the second she opened the door, like she already knew why we were there. Jess didn't waste time. She asked straight up, "Did Mom ever tell you anything about Rachel Mendez?" Her aunt froze. For a second, she just stared. Then she said something that chilled me. "You need to let this go, Jess. Some things are better left buried. Jess wasn't having it. She pulled out the note. The one her mom wrote. The one that said she saw Rachel being taken. Her aunt went pale. Then quietly, almost like she was talking to herself, she said, "He promised it was only once." That's when it all clicked. This wasn't just about a missing mom. Or a break-in. Or a voicemail. There was something older here. Something that started years ago. A promise. A cover-up. And now, it was falling apart. Before we could ask anything else, we heard a car pull up outside. Fast. Her aunt's eyes widened. "You need to leave. Now." And just as we turned to run, someone started knocking on the door. Hard. But I'll tell you what happened next, in the final part. The knocks at the door weren't normal, they were urgent, angry, like someone trying to break it down. Jess grabbed my arm, and we backed away slowly as her aunt stood frozen. The pounding kept going. Boom. 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 Her aunt finally whispered, "Go out the back. Now." We didn't wait. We rushed through the kitchen, out the back door, and ran toward the alley behind the house. As we reached the corner, I turned around, and for a split second, I saw him. A man in a dark hoodie, stepping into the hallway. I didn't see his face, but something about his posture felt familiar. Like we'd seen him before. We ran until we reached the car and didn't stop until we were back on the main road. Jess was breathing hard, staring out the window, shaking her head. "Why now? Why show up there, tonight?" she asked. And that's when it hit me, someone was watching us. Every move. Every question we asked. Later that night, Jess checked her mom's old tablet, which she hadn't touched in months. As soon as she opened it, a pop-up appeared. A synced message from an unknown number: "Stop digging. You're next." That was it. No context, no sender ID. Just a threat. Direct. We stared at the screen, frozen. Jess looked at me and said, "This isn't just about Mom anymore. Whoever this is, they think I know something. And they're scared." Then came the real twist. Jess remembered something, an old USB drive her mom used to keep locked in a drawer. We hadn't thought to check it before. We found it buried under books in a box labeled "Taxes." But what was on it wasn't about money. It was a video. Of Rachel Mendez. And her mom's voice in the background. Saying something no one was ever supposed to hear. But I'll get to that in the next part. Jess clicked play. The video was grainy, old, but clear enough. It showed a girl, Rachel Mendez, sitting on a couch in a dim room. She looked nervous, glancing off-screen. Then we heard it, Jess's mom. Her voice, calm but tense, saying, "Just stay quiet. He won't hurt you if you listen." Jess covered her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. "My mom knew," she whispered. "She helped hide her." The camera shook, and then a man's figure appeared, partially blocked by shadows, but unmistakably the same frame we'd seen in the hallway that night. Jess's uncle. He sat beside Rachel, said something we couldn't hear, then the video cut off. The truth hit like a punch. Jess's mom hadn't just witnessed Rachel being taken, she had helped cover it up. Maybe to protect her brother. Maybe out of fear. But now we understood why she vanished. She'd kept the video all these years as insurance. And someone finally found out. We took the USB straight to the police. This time, there were no more doubts. A task force was formed. Jess's uncle was arrested 2 days later. They found more files, proof of other crimes, hidden deep in his home computer. The case reopened, and Rachel's family was finally told the truth. Jess's mom was found safe in a remote cabin, hiding. She had planned to turn everything over, but got scared when she realized her brother knew she still had the evidence. It felt like the nightmare was over. Until Jess got one final message. A new voicemail. Same unknown number. This time, only 2 words, not him. And that's when we realized, Jess's uncle wasn't the only one involved. The real secret? It wasn't over. That final message, not him, changed everything again. But this time, instead of panic, Jess felt something else, clarity. The truth had only been halfway uncovered. Her uncle had played a role, yes, but he hadn't acted alone. Jess's mom confirmed it when the police found her. She finally told everything, about how, years ago, she and her brother got caught up in something they didn't understand. A man named Victor. Wealthy. Powerful. Quiet. The one who really pulled the strings. Denise had stayed quiet out of fear. Victor had connections, and back then, nobody would have believed her. But when Jess started digging, he felt threatened. That's why the voicemail came. That's why the house was broken into. It wasn't just about hiding the past, it was about stopping the truth. With the video evidence and Denise's statement, police opened a deeper investigation. Victor was eventually found, living under a different name in another state. Arrested. Charged. Years too late, but justice finally started moving. Rachel's family got closure. Jess's mom returned home. And for the first time in a long while, Jess could breathe again. We learned that truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how long it's buried. Sometimes it just needs someone brave enough to ask the right questions. And I'll never forget that night Jess called me and said, "Help me, I'm scared." Because that was the night everything began. Thanks for listening. If you're still here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories just like this.